Washington, D.C. Please welcome Congressman Jamie Raskin.
Hello, indivisible. Hello, America. Anybody here from Maryland, the Free State? The birthplace of Frederick Douglass. The proud home of people who work at USAID and FDA and NOAA, the National Weather Service, and the National Institutes for Health, the NIH. The crown jewel of bioscience, where despite all the purges and all the firings, they're working every day to cure cystic fibrosis, multiple sclerosis, breast cancer, and that most deadly disease of our time, malignant narcissistic personality disorder. Let the scientists do their jobs. They might even find a cure for that baffling worm in brain disease. The great thing about science is it's true whether or not the Secretary of Health and Human Services believes in it. Let's all say with Maryland, hands off science. Anybody here from Virginia? The birthplace of James Madison, who wrote us the First Amendment. It separated church and state for the first time in human history. It gave us the right to speak freely, to publish freely, to worship freely, to assemble freely, and to petition government for a redress of grievances. As Dr. King said, we've got the right to protest for what is right without being arrested, deported, or fired. We got the right to read the books we want, including 1984 and The Handmaid's Tale, even if they now belong in the nonfiction section. We've even got the right to call the president deranged for crashing our economy, destroying $6 trillion of wealth, and turning my 401k into a 201k. And the press has the right to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of Mexico. Madison's Constitution gave us the two most beautiful words in the English language: due process. Let's stand with Madison and Virginia and the people and Thomas Jefferson and all the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and let's say, hands off the Bill of Rights. Hello to the 713,000 tax-paying, patriotic citizens of Washington, D.C. Your officers, like Michael Fanone, joined the Capitol Police on January 6, 2021, to defend Congress against the worst insurrectionary and mob violence of American history brought down on the Capitol, which wounded, hospitalized, and injured more than 140 of our police officers. These were mobsters who turned the flag of America into a weapon of war against our police. And now Donald Trump says he wants to set up a fund to compensate them. Mr. Trump, if there's going to be a fund to compensate people for January 6th, we're going to compensate the police officers and their families. We're going to back the men and women of the blue, not the planners of the coup. Meantime, the people of D.C. have a valid, bona fide political grievance, not an imaginary one. They've not stormed the Capitol or tried to overturn an election or hang the vice president. They petitioned for statehood like 37 states before them. They did it the right way. So we say to Donald Trump and Elon Musk, hands off Greenland. That's an independent country. Hands off Canada. That's an independent country. Hands off Panama. That's an independent country. Statehood for Washington, D.C. And let's say with the people of Washington, free D.C. I want to say a special hello to people across America, but especially the people of Wisconsin. They showed America that organized people who want nothing but freedom can defeat organized billionaires who want nothing but power. Here in America, Mr. Musk, justice is not for sale, and we don't raffle off state Supreme Court judgeships for million-dollar prizes. Stop trying to buy our votes. Stop ripping off our government, and stop stealing our data. My friends, we're in the fight of our lives, but I want to tell you this. We are winning now. We are winning every day. We are winning in court, where 39 judges appointed by 5 Republican and Democratic presidents have issued 56 preliminary injunctions and TROs against this lawlessness. Now want to impeach judges like Judge Boasberg, the chief judge of the D.C. District. Yesterday, he ordered the return of Kilmer Garcia, a legal resident of the United States, married to a U.S. citizen. They sent him to a dictator's prison in El Salvador. The administration was forced to admit that his deportation was without due process and was, quote, an administrative error. But get this, then Trump said, well, c'est la vie. Mr. Garcia would have to stay in that torture facility because the U.S. no longer had custody over him. But Judge Boasberg told him that if you've got the means to unlawfully deport someone, you find the means to bring them back. So now they're calling Judge Boasberg a radical left rogue judge. The problem is he was appointed to the bench first by President Bush. He was Justice Kavanaugh's roommate at Yale. He's known as a pillar of the legal establishment. They say, though, the number of courts striking down Trump's policies is completely unprecedented. Well, so what? That's only because the number of his illegal actions are completely unprecedented. The judges are doing their jobs. They're doing their jobs. Let's tell MAGA what democratic movements all over the world tell the dictators of the world. Hands off the courts. Hands off the courts. But Trump's even trying to ban law firms and lawyers who represent Democrats from federal buildings and federal employment and to revoke their security clearances. Wait, he's shaken down law firms for hundreds of millions of dollars in pro bono work for his pro-Malum causes. Some firms have buckled under these threats but hundreds of firms led by Wilmer Hale and Jenner and Block, and thousands of lawyers led by Rachel Cohen are standing strong for the rule of law. And the courts are rejecting these attacks on the right to counsel and free speech. We're winning in the states. We're winning in the counties. We're winning in the cities and towns. We're winning in the churches, and not just with the great Reverend Barber. We're winning across the country. No moral person wants an economy crashing dictator who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. We're winning in the universities, which know the difference between transgender mice and transgenic mice. And they know the difference between academic freedom and political tyranny. We're winning with veterans across America who know which side we were fighting on in World War II. And when they see Nazis marching down the boulevard, they don't see very fine people on both sides of the street. We're winning with people in the armed services who know that Donald Trump is turning our best friends in the world, like Germany and the UK and France and Canada and Mexico, into enemies by the way he's treating them. And he's turning the enemies of American democracy, like Vladimir Putin and Viktor Orban and Xi and Erdogan, into their bosom buddies. We're starting to win with the business community, which knows there's no prosperity with stupid trade wars against the whole world. There's no prosperity with stock market collapse and mass unemployment. There's no future with presidents who have the politics of Mussolini and the economics of Herbert Hoover. But now look, Elon Musk and the Silicon Valley billionaire mafia believe that high IQ tech supermen obsessed with eugenics and impregnating as many women as possible are destined to govern the rest of us. In other words, they're going to rule in their vision. They believe democracy is doomed, and they believe regime change is upon us if they can only seize control of our payment systems, our data, and our computers. Their guru, Curtis Yarvin, a.k.a. Mencius Moldbug, says American democracy is a failed experiment. He praises slavery and its positive effects for the African American community. He told the New York Times that the American people have to get over our irrational fear of dictatorship. On January 20th, the day when Donald Trump did not put his hand on the Bible, even his own Bible, available online to true believers for the low, low price of $59.99. On that day, when he swore to support our Constitution, we saw what a dictatorship of autocrats and plutocrats and kleptocrats and theocrats looks like. It's a twice impeached, multiply bankrupted, very stable genius standing in front of oligarchs, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos, standing in front a cabinet of billionaires and Putin followers who make war plans over the public signal app, even while they're literally sitting in the Kremlin. But I want to tell you something. Moldberg and Vance and Musk, they may have access to artificial intelligence, but they've got no access to human intelligence. These founders of the Dark Enlightenment, as they call themselves, are no match for the founders of the actual Enlightenment, like Madison and Jefferson and Ben Franklin and Tom Paine, much less the leaders who took down slavery and built Reconstruction, like Abraham Lincoln and Harriet Tubman and Thaddeus Stevens and Frederick Douglass. If they think they're going to overthrow the heroes of American democracy, they don't know who they're dealing with. Our founders wrote a constitution that does not begin with "we the dictators." The preamble says, "We the people." We the who? Did you say the corporations? We the people, in order to form a more perfect. Did you say a more perfect government? We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure to ourselves and our posterity the blessings of liberty, do hereby ordain and establish the Constitution of these United States of America. That's our preamble. And then the very next sentence is, all legislative power is vested in the Congress of the United States of America. And it lays out all the powers of Congress, the power to regulate commerce domestically and internationally, which means it's Congress that controls tariffs, not the president, not Elon Musk. Their tariffs are not only imbecilic, they're illegal, they're unconstitutional, and we're going to turn this around. Congress has the power of the purse to raise money and spend money. An Appropriations Act is a federal law, like a law banning assault on federal officers. It's not a budgetary negotiation. It's not a suggestion to the executive branch. If we say spend money on childhood education or cancer research, you spend that money. Congress is the lawmaking branch, the predominant branch, as Madison put it. And don't buy any of this fifth grade propaganda about three co-equal branches. First of all, co-equal's not even a word, okay? It's like extremely unique. But secondly, read Article 2 of the Constitution about the president. After all those pages about Congress, 4 short paragraphs. The most important one, Section 4, which is all about how you impeach a president for treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. If we're co-equal, how come we can impeach him and he can't impeach us? What's the core function of the president, my friends? And teach your children to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. Not twisted, not distorted, not maligned, not trashed. Take care that the laws are faithfully executed. All we say to Donald Trump is, do your job. And when he doesn't, that's what Article 3 is all about. All about. Marbury versus Madison says it's emphatically the province and the duty of the judicial department to say what the law is. That's what judicial review is. But that's a short-term solution, my friends. The real backstop to this authoritarianism is, it has always been, and it always will be, the people. Even with all their gerrymandering and all their voter suppression, even with all their billions in dark money, the people must, the people will organize to defeat them and take back the Congress next year. We'll be heard in the town halls, in the union halls, in the church halls, in the state capitals and in the capital city, online and inline, at the post office, which we're going to save, at social events, and at the Social Security offices that they're trying to close down. And if anybody was slow to wake up to this authoritarian takeover, nobody's sleeping now, and nothing is going to stop the forces of democracy and freedom in America. No oligarch, no proligarch, no autocrat, no theocrat, No kleptocrat, no monarch from Moscow or Mar-a-Lago is going to turn us around. Fascism will not be the end of human history. Human history will be the end of fascism. The deranged cult of MAGA will not destroy the economy built by free labor, free ideas, and free markets. The Economist magazine called 6 months ago the envy of the world. The envy of the world. My friends, we are not only the liberals who believe in liberty. We are not only the progressives who believe in progress. We are the conservatives who will defend the land, the air, the water, the climate system, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the National Labor Relations Act, the Fair Labor Standards Act, the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, everything that their party of nihilists and authoritarians wants to tear down in the next few weeks, we are going to conserve and defend for future generations of Americans. We invite all Americans to join us, to join the party of democracy and freedom and solidarity. And an injury to one is an injury to all. A victory for any one of us is a victory for all. And I leave you with the words of two great democracy patriots. Hold them close to your heart. One, the great Frederick Douglass, born a half an hour away at the Wye River Plantation into slavery. He escaped from slavery to become our great freedom fighter during the Civil War and Reconstruction. And Douglass said, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. And the struggle may be physical, it may be moral and physical, but there must be struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. A message to you from Frederick Douglass and the people of Maryland. And my friends, I leave you finally with the words of the great Tom Paine, who my son Tommy was named after. And Tom Paine got here in 1774, 2 years before the Revolution. He fell in love with the promise of our land. He said, if these people live up to their promise and their ideals, the land will become an asylum to humanity, he said. Not an insane asylum, mind you. A place of refuge for people seeking freedom from political and religious discrimination from all over the world. And he wrote the pamphlet that ignited our revolution, Common Sense, by which he meant the sense we all have in common when we're willing to reason together without myth and dogma and what we would call propaganda and disinformation. But 1776 was a tough year, and the country was split. There were some people running around saying, you can't beat the kings and the queens. You can't beat the autocrats and the monarchs. You can't separate church and state. For all of history, people have lived under thugs and dictators and kleptocrats like Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. But half of the people said, no, let's try something different. Let's pledge to ourselves our sacred honor, our fortunes, our lives to build something different. And so Paine wanted to write a pamphlet to give people hope during the darkest hours. And he wrote this beautiful pamphlet called The American Crisis. I just want to quote a little passage to you. I'm going to update the language so it doesn't offend modern sensibilities. And Nancy Pelosi told me I had to do that. And she said it wouldn't offend Tom Paine because he was a feminist. And that he was. He was fighting for women's voting rights in the 18th century. But Paine said, these are the times that try men and women's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will shrink at this moment from the service of their cause and their country. But everyone that stands with us now will win the love and the favor and affection of every man and every woman for all time. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, but we have this saving consolation. The more difficult the struggle, the more glorious in the end will be our victory. Let's make that victory ours. Thank you, Indivisible. Thank you, America.